There is a financial system running in the background of your life, a silent operating system that the wealthy understand intimately and use every single day. You were never taught it in school, and most people have been actively steered away from ever seeing it. But once you see it, and once you truly understand how the mechanics of wealth actually function, you can't unsee it. Imagine you were sitting at your kitchen table, looking at your paycheck. You see a number at the top, the value of your hard work, your time, your sacrifice. But then you see the subtractions. Before that money even hits your bank account, a significant portion has vanished into the hands of the government. You've been told this is the price we pay for a civilized society, but there's a deeper truth that no one mentions. The tax code was not designed for workers. It was designed to reward owners. There's a fundamental divide in our world between those who earn an income and those who own assets. While the worker is stuck on a treadmill, paying 15%, 25%, even 35% of every dollar they earn, the owners are playing a completely different game. They have unlocked a strategy that lets their wealth compound faster than the IRS can tax it. This is the owner's playbook, and at its core lies a concept so powerful it feels like a glitch in the matrix. The borrow until you die strategy. It is a system that allows the elite to access millions of dollars in cash without ever triggering a single cent in income tax. Today, we're opening the vault to show you the fundamental, almost invisible system that the wealthy use to not just get rich, but to stay rich forever. Why selling is a trap? To understand the borrow until you die strategy, we first have to understand why the traditional advice you've been given is actually a wealth-destroying trap. Most people are taught to buy an asset, wait for it to go up in value, and then sell it to cash in on the profit. And let's look at a concrete example. Imagine you buy a property, a nice single-family home, for $400,000. You work hard, you manage the property, and 5 years later, the market has shifted in your favor. That house is now worth $500,000. Your worker mindset kicks in, and you think, I've made $100,000. I should sell now and take my profit. You sell the house, you get the check, and for a moment, you feel like a winner. But then, Uncle Sam comes knocking. Because you sold the asset, that $100,000 profit is now considered a capital gain. Depending on your tax bracket, the government takes 15% or 20%. Right off the top, suddenly your $100,000 profit is only $80,000. You pay your taxes, you feel the sting, and now you have a pile of cash, but you've lost the house. Your wealth journey just hit the reset button. You're playing a game where every time you score a goal, the referee takes a third of your points and sends you back to the starting line. Wealthy people understand this. Selling equals taxation, therefore la pari. They never sell. The secret of borrowed money. Wealthy people build wealth by leveraging assets to make them more money with new assets. They use a relentless compounding cycle: buy, grow, borrow, and buy again. This works because of one fundamental legal truth. Borrowed money is not income. Think about that for a second. When you get a paycheck, it's income, and it's taxed. But when you take out a loan, the IRS does not see that as a gain, because you have an obligation to pay it back. Debt is a liability on paper. But in the hands of a trained owner, debt becomes the ultimate tax-free tool. Let's go back to our $400,000 house, now worth $500,000. Instead of selling it, the wealthy owner goes to the bank. They already have a mortgage. Let's say they originally borrowed $320,000 and have paid it down to $280,000. The bank looks at the new value and says, we'll let you borrow up to 75% of what this house is worth. 75% of $500,000 is $375,000. The owner takes out a new loan for $375,000, pays off the old $280,000 loan, and walks away with $95,000 in cash. That $95,000 flows into their bank account, completely untouched by the IRS. It's tax-free because it's debt. The owner still owns the house, it still produces rent, it still provides tax deductions like depreciation, and most importantly, or it continues to grow in value. Debt becomes the bridge that lets your assets keep working while your taxes stay at zero. The 4 stages of the snowball. To master this zero tax snowball, you must follow 4 distinct stages. Stage 1, asset accumulation. You can't borrow against nothing. You must first acquire assets that produce cash flow and grow in value over time. Billionaires do this with company stock, but everyday people can do it with real estate. Real estate is the sneak-in strategy for the working class because it offers leverage and tax advantages you simply can't get from a W-2 paycheck. Stage 2, borrowing against assets. Once your asset gains equity, either from appreciation or loan paydown, you perform a cash-out refinance. You trade old debt for new, larger debt based on higher value. Stage 3, strategic deployment. This is where the magic happens. You don't buy a Ferrari, you take that tax-free capital and use it as a down payment on another asset. Now you have 2 houses growing in value, 2 houses producing deductions, and 2 assets you can borrow against in the future. This is how small capital turns into massive empires. Stage 4, the step up in basis. This is the die part of borrow until you die. If you never sell your assets in your lifetime, you never pay capital gains tax. When you pass away, your heirs receive a full step up in basis. If you bought a house for $400,000 and it's worth $2 million when you die, your children can sell it the next day and pay 0 capital gains tax. Decades of growth erased from the IRS books. The snowball keeps rolling. The story of 2 brothers. To see how this plays out in real life, meet David and Michael. Both start with $80,000. David follows the worker playbook. He buys a house, it goes up $100,000, and he sells. He pays $20,000 in taxes and puts $80,000 back in the bank. Every 5 years, he resets. Michael follows the owner playbook. He buys the same house, but he never sells. He refinances, pulls out $95,000 tax-free, and buys another property. 5 years later, he owns multiple homes. By age 70, David has savings, but he paid hundreds of thousands in taxes. Michael owns a portfolio of 20 properties and has never paid capital gains tax. He lives off borrowed money and leaves a massive tax-free legacy. Same income, same starting point, different rules. The risks and the access gap. Now you might be asking, if this works, why isn't everyone doing it? The answer isn't intelligence, it's access and education. Most people are trapped in the earn, tax, spend cycle. Many work 3 to 4 months every year just to pay taxes. That's wealth being siphoned away before it can ever grow. This strategy also has risks. If the market crashes or interest rates spike, you can get trapped. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It requires discipline, long-term thinking, and risk management. Used correctly, it builds freedom. Used poorly, it destroys people. Reframing the system. The truth is, the borrow until you die system isn't secret because it's illegal. It's secret because it's allowed. The system rewards ownership. It rewards building, providing housing, creating jobs. Once you understand this, everything changes. You stop chasing money, and start building systems. You don't need billions to start, you just need understanding. Because in the game of wealth, the most valuable asset you own isn't money, it's knowledge. The IRS doesn't hide these rules. But if everyone played like an owner, the treadmill would stop turning. So the real question is this: are you going to earn and get taxed, or own and borrow? Your financial legacy depends on that choice. The snowball is waiting, you just have to give it the first push. Quick note before you go, if this breakdown gave you clarity, if it helped you see money differently, subscribe so we can hit 500 subscribers together. See you in the next video.